In a meadow where wildflowers nodded in the breeze and the grass grew thick and sweet, there lived a young firefly named Ember. She had been born with a gift that all fireflies possess, a magical light that glowed from within her, bright as a tiny star. When Ember was very small, her light shone brilliantly. She would dance through the summer evenings, leaving trails of gold in the darkness. The other creatures of the meadow would stop their activities just to watch her fly. "Look at Ember," the crickets would chirp. "Her light is the brightest in the whole meadow." And Ember would glow even more intensely, proud and happy. But one night, when a terrible storm rolled across the meadow, something changed. The wind howled like 100 wolves. Rain fell in sheets, cold and merciless. Lightning cracked the sky into pieces, and thunder shook the ground. Ember tried to fly home, but the wind was too strong. It tossed her about like a leaf, spinning her round and round until she crashed into a thorn bush. When morning came, Ember crawled out from the thorns, wet and exhausted. She was bruised, but alive. Yet something felt different. Something felt dim. That evening, when the sun set and the other fireflies began to glow, Ember tried to light her lantern. She concentrated as hard as she could, squeezing her eyes shut and willing the light to come. A tiny flicker appeared, weak as a candle in the wind. Then it went out. She tried again. Another small spark. Then darkness. "What's wrong with me?" Ember whispered. Night after night she tried to shine, but her light had become so faint that even she could barely see it. The other fireflies still glowed beautifully, painting the darkness with their dancing lights, but Ember could no longer join them. "Perhaps I was never meant to shine," she said sadly. "Perhaps the storm took away my gift forever." She stopped trying. She stopped dancing. During the evenings, while the other fireflies lit up the meadow, Ember would hide beneath the leaves, watching from the shadows. One night, as she sat alone in her hiding place, an old beetle named Solomon crawled up beside her. He had a shell like polished mahogany and eyes that had seen many seasons come and go. "Why do you hide, little firefly?" Solomon asked in his slow, gentle voice. "Because I cannot shine anymore," Ember said. "The storm broke something inside me. My light is gone." Solomon was quiet for a long moment, considering her words. Then he said, "Come with me. I want to show you something." Though she didn't feel like going anywhere, Ember followed the old beetle. He led her across the meadow, past the pond where frogs sang their evening songs, and up a small hill. At the top stood an ancient oak tree, its branches reaching toward the stars. "Look there," Solomon said, pointing with one leg toward a hollow in the tree trunk. Ember peered inside. In the darkness of the hollow, she saw a faint, flickering glow. So faint, she almost missed it. As her eyes adjusted, she realized it was another firefly, even dimmer than herself. "That is my friend Flicker," Solomon explained. "She is very old now, and her light has grown small. But watch." As they watched, Flicker emerged from the hollow. Her glow was indeed tiny, barely visible. But she flew out into the night with purpose, drifting down toward the base of the tree where a family of field mice huddled in the darkness. The mother mouse was trying to lead her 3 babies back to their nest, but they were too young to see well in the dark. They kept stumbling and squeaking in fear. Flicker hovered in front of them, her small light glowing steadily. It wasn't bright, but it was enough. Following her gentle glow, the mother mouse was able to guide her babies safely home. "You see," Solomon said softly, "Flicker's light is not what it once was. Age has dimmed it, just as fear has dimmed yours. But she still shines, and her small light still matters." Ember felt something stir inside her, a warmth she hadn't felt since before the storm. "But I'm afraid," she admitted. "What if I try to shine and I fail? What if everyone sees how dim I've become?" "Little one," Solomon said kindly, "the darkness does not care how bright your light is. Any light, no matter how small, pushes the darkness back. A tiny flame can guide someone home. A spark can start a fire. And a firefly who thinks her light is too dim to matter is a firefly who has forgotten what light is for." "What is it for?" Ember asked. "Light is not for showing off how bright you can be," Solomon said. "Light is for helping others find their way. And there are many in this meadow who walk in darkness, who would be grateful for even the smallest glow." That night, Ember climbed to the highest blade of grass she could find. Her heart beat fast with fear and hope mingled together. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and remembered why she had loved to shine in the first place. Not for the praise, but for the simple joy of bringing light to the darkness. And slowly, gently, her light began to glow. It was not as bright as it had been before the storm. It flickered uncertainly at first, like a candle finding its strength. But it was there. It was real. It was hers. Ember began to fly. She rose into the air, and her light grew a little steadier with each wing beat. She wasn't the brightest firefly in the meadow anymore, but she was shining. And as she flew, she noticed things she had never seen before. A spider stuck on its back in the grass, unable to right itself, guided by her light to flip over. A lost moth who found his way back to his tree. A child looking out a window, pointing with delight at the fireflies, smiling for the first time that day. Night after night, Ember kept shining. Some nights her light was brighter, some nights dimmer. But she never stopped trying, and she never hid in the shadows again. And in time, something wonderful happened. Her light began to grow stronger. Not because the storm's damage had healed, though it had, slowly, but because she had learned something more important. That courage makes the light brighter. That purpose gives it power. And that even the smallest glow can change someone's darkness into hope. The other fireflies welcomed her back with joy. And though there were fireflies with brighter lights and flashier patterns, none shone with quite the same warmth as Ember, the firefly who had forgotten how to shine and then remembered why it mattered.